Hi, I'm Dick Hoffman, and I'd like to show you a bow I made. It's rather unusual. Of course, you're probably thinking it's because of the very pleasing shape, contrasting colors, but nope, it's actually got wood inlay butterflies. These are all made of various woods, and it's been inserted into the bowl as an inlay. And you can see the butterflies right there. So the question is, how do you do this? And that's really what this video is all about. I'm going to show you exactly how you can make the butterflies and how you can actually insert them into a round object such as a bowl. So first we need to talk about the inserts themselves. They're made of about 1/8 inch stock. You can see that is a butterfly, and it has no body, because that's actually inserted later, but it doesn't have to be a butterfly. Here is a hummingbird. It's also without its beak because that's added later. And we can even make more complex inserts, such as one of the most frequent questions that I'm asked is, how do you insert something into a round bowl? Well, here is a schematic, and it is a 2-inch diameter bowl. So it's represented there, and you can see the butterfly on top, the flat profile, and then if you cut the wings, you can actually insert them around the diameter of that bowl. As I said, that's a 2-inch diameter. You then insert the body right after that. And here's an example. You can see that this is a relatively small diameter bowl, and butterflies have been inserted, no problem. You can also insert in an area of a bowl such as this ridge line. This happens to be a bowl where I've actually done a hummingbird that is got a flower. So this is actually a 2-piece insert. But the idea is that you can take a butterfly, and you can see you can fold over the wings and put that right on that edge, and it works absolutely great. So no problem inserting in a round bowl. So the next thing we need to do is let's go make a butterfly. We're ready to make the butterfly, and in order to do that, we've actually created a stack, and I'll show you how to do that. We've got our pattern, and we're going to use the scroll saw that you can see here behind me, and let's get started. First thing we need to do is to glue up a stack. I'm going to show you a stack I've already glued up. It's got Padauk, Osage orange, and walnut. There's paper in between each stack, and this allows us to actually separate it much easier once we've got everything cut out. So we're going to apply some glue. Doesn't take much. Spread it around and glue our pattern on top of it. Now, let's talk about this pattern. As you can see, what I've done is I've actually drawn a cut pattern on this. If you actually looked at the butterfly, they'd have lots of little different segments, and we can't do that. But what we can do is simplify. And what we've ended up with is 4 cut lobes on each side of the wings, and we don't have a body. We're going to cut up through that body area because that eventually will be replaced with a real body. And we go up and cut top, come down the same path, cut second, come down, cut third, cut fourth, and then at this point we go back all the way up, do the same thing on the other side, and we exit out. After we've done that, we've got to separate all these little pieces, and that's a real chore. In fact, that's what the toothpick is for. And then we'll come back in and cut the body itself. So let's get cutting. We're here at the scroll saw. What I've got is a #1 blade installed, and I've actually covered the hole with a piece of tape so the small parts don't drop in. And we're ready to start cutting. Here we go. Step, which is removing all these small pieces, and we need to keep track of which wing they came out of, just simply because it'll make it easier when we have to replace them in order to make individual butterflies. So let's start the process. We already have 2 of them out, so what I'm going to do is put them over here. And we're going to try to poke out. There's the top and the next one. So we have our 4 lobes, and we're minus, here it is, there's our other lobe. And as you can see, we now have 1 butterfly without any of the interior, plus the right and left parts. The next thing is to cut out the shape of the butterfly. We're back at the scroll saw, and let's get started. All right, here comes the fun part. We're going to split the butterfly using an X-Acto knife. And we simply find the seam between the 2 woods that has paper inserted. And you can see we now have 1 off, and we'll do the second one. And we have 2 more, and 1 piece broke off, which is not a problem. We're going to split that one. And there you go, right. The next step is to actually take all these pieces and put them in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the Osage orange, and we're going to use the walnut and make 2 out of the 3 parts. And I hope you can see this. So what we're going to do is we've got the 3 pieces, walnut, Osage orange, and Paduke, and we're going to use the Osage orange in the walnut and the Paduke in the Osage orange, and we need to split those, and that's an easy thing to do. Just kind of twist them a little bit. So I need to put I'm going to put the Paduke in the Osage. Okay, and all the pieces are now inserted in there, so the next thing to do is we're going to lock it in place with masking tape. And here we go. I'm going to turn those over. Okay, we're ready to actually apply the CA glue, and this just simply takes a small drop on each of them. Plug the area. And we are set. I'm going to sop up some of the extra. And we now have 2 butterflies that are ready to go. Next step is to sand them. All right, all done. The colors on both sides are balanced. They're not exactly the same, but once you get them in the bowl and you insert the body, everything is going to look pretty good. So now the next step is we need to turn a bowl so we can get these in. This is going to be a quick turn on a elm blank. We're going to make a bowl out of it, and this is where the butterflies are going to go. So here we go, high speed.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined. Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
We've got our bowl made and it's roughed out. We've added just a thin walnut rim, and we're going to be using the Weechee, which is basically a Dremel on steroids. It's got a flexible cable, makes it easy to use. Very similar to a Fordham, but it's pretty standard. A rotary tool of any size and shape will work as long as it takes small bits. And let me show you the bits themselves. I'm going to zoom in here, and let's zoom in. The first one here is a rotary burr and just high-speed steel. The second one is a rotary burr, but it's made out of carbide and used for removing grout, 1/8 inch. And the last one is again, carbide rotary burr. All right, I've inserted the large carbide rotary bit, and the first thing we're going to do is cut the butterfly wings in half. Because we're actually going to mount each wing separately There's actually a small little crack there that I'm going to use, and we're going to put the butterfly wings there, and we are going to draw a preliminary outline of that wing where we want to inlay. And we're not going to go close to the line. The secret to having a good inlay is actually having a compression fit into the bowl. So the next step is, let's start to router this out. When you're doing this, it pays to go slow. Also start with the straightest line so you can get a registered spot. And I need to go in just a little bit more on this side in order to get that to register good. I don't know if you can see that. We'll zoom in just a little bit. So I've got the hole. All right, I'm going to push it up into the hole to see if it registers well. Looks like it does. It's a pretty good fit. I don't care about this line because that's the line that the body is going to go into. But what I want to do now is sand away my original lines because I want to put that in, register it against that first cut on that side, and then I'm going to redraw my lines and start to cut again. All right, we'll refit, see where we're doing good, and again I'm going to essentially erase the line, put that in, make sure it's nice and tight. All right, so we've still got that to go. Notice I'm not quite going up to the line, trying to stay a little bit shy of it. And I am very close. Need to do just a little bit more up here and a little bit more right there. All right, I think we're ready to actually install that. And the way we do that is we need to taper all these edges so we can press that into the spot. And let me reposition the camera. So all I'm going to do is take this on the back side and I'm going to just use a knife and I want to just relieve that edge all the way around. And you can see it's just not quite going, but we're going to force it in there using a clamp. So first we apply some glue. Notice that that hole is just about 1/8 of an inch. Remember we had about 1/4 inch on the bowl rim. So I'm actually applying glue into the sawdust because I want to have any sawdust in there to help hide it, any holes. And that is my butterfly piece. And I'm going to back out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. I am simply applying a clamp. And you're starting to see squeeze out. That's a good sign. All right, we have our first wing. That's where the body is going to go, so we don't need to worry about that. And it's now time to put in the second wing. So we're going to position that wing, leave a little space in between for the body, and mark. We have cut a piece of ebony, and what I'm doing is I'm tapering it so it will go into the slot. I'm making sure that the upper and bottom of the piece are rounded because butterflies don't have square heads. And I think I got my length pretty good. So let's see how we fit. What I want is I want a compression fit. So that'll stay there. We'll add our glue. Add our piece. And add a clamp. So I'm clamping that pretty tight. With the first butterfly done, we're now going to inlay the second two the same way, but not show it on video. Alright, we have our butterfly bowl just about finished, a couple of coats of tung oil, and that's going to seal it, and now we put in the antennas. Alright, here's a quick look of the butterflies. See, the bodies are in. You haven't quite finished everything, but we're going to put in the antenna right now, and I've left it on the lathe, but that means we can lock it in place and it doesn't move using the index wheel. And all we're going to do is use a knife to cut in the antennas. And there's one. And now let's do the other two. Notice our sweeping curves away. And the next step is to get some paint in that. What we're going to use is just basic black acrylic paint. Just take a little bit of it, paint it on. Now we take a wet towel and we wipe it off. We now have a finished bowl, and there are the butterflies. You can see them. Notice that there's very little gaps in any of those. The antenna comes out, and the diameter of the bowl is probably 8 inches, and it's about 1/4 inch thick along the rim and most of the bowl. So hopefully this explains how to do the process, and I look forward to seeing some examples of members trying the same technique on your bowls.